Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Movie Mates podcast. I am Matthew, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, great to see you. So today, I'm just going to pass over to Callum to explain what Pixar movies we're going to be reviewing today. It's as Callum mentioned in the last episode. This is our penultimate one today, so we're sort of getting into the modern era now in the last few years of the films. And over to you, mate. What films are you going to be talking about then?
Today we're going to be talking about an arguably questionable slate of films. Uh,
Mhm.
some that are not considered very big hitters. First, we'll be talking about The Good Dinosaur, then
Yeah,
moving on
absolutely.
to Finding Dory, and finishing off with Cars 3.
Yeah, man. As you said, like none of these are I would describe as like Pixar classics. They're sort of as you said, quite probably like understated and stuff. And two of them, I suppose, are sequels, which is quite unusual for sort of an episode. Usually, we have a couple of like standalone. Here is just the Good Dinosaur in that regard. So yeah, I can't wait to get into these ones with you because I think we'll have some good opinions about these. I'm looking forward to it. So
Yeah, some okay thoughts,
Some
definitely.
okay thoughts. But yeah, thank you to everyone who has recently supported us. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, leave your thoughts on these films down below. Email us with any questions or podcast suggestions at moviematespodcast@gmail.com. It would go a long way. And yeah, hope you guys are all safe and well. So yeah, shall we kick off with our first film of the day then, buddy?
Indeed. So
Yeah.
we'll be starting with The Good Dinosaur, a film that I had never seen. I'd actually never seen any of the three films that we're discussing today. So that this is
First
a
for you.
challenge for me because I was going in with no real knowledge of the film's content. I had I had an okay time with this one. What was your experience on this one?
Yeah, man. So, similar to you, this was my first time viewing, and this is probably this is quite a strange film for me because it doesn't feel like a Pixar film at all. And for
No.
me, I had a good time with it, but it's a bit of a nothing film in many regards. You know, not a lot happens. Many of the plot points are completely copied from other films or even animated films that we've seen before. So it's not really a special film in my eyes, but there's nothing particularly bad about it. So I have a few points here that I'm looking forward to talking about with you.
You're looking forward to trashing the film.
Honestly, mate, none of my points are really that negative. I just have barely any points because nothing really happens.
Yeah, I have about twice as many notes on this as any other film that we're discussing today, which is a bit weird because
Cool, cool, cool.
I would say
Sounds
this is
fun.
probably the Pixar film where the least amount happens, and it's probably one of the most sparse in dialogue.
Yeah,
Like there's definitely a solid chunk of 30 minutes where Arlo is traveling with Spot where there's just nothing said,
absolutely, man.
and not in an interesting way, in a quite dull way.
Yeah, man. So one thing I wanted to ask you about the film was for a dinosaur film, I noticed that there's a particularly lack of dinosaurs. Like there, for me, it seems like the film sort of cleverly subverts the dinosaur extinction at the start, and I kind of wanted to ask you, like, do you think it's intentional that there's a lack of dinosaurs in this film? Because it seems like there's a lot of animals that we would recognize now. Like I think there's wild buffalo towards the end that are like called longhorns, and there's humans in this film. So I thought it was set in a very weird time period.
Yeah, no, I feel like if you're calling your film The Good Dinosaur and you're trying to say the dinosaurs were never made extinct, you want to see as many dinosaurs as you would humans on Earth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I didn't really think about that until you mentioned it, but yeah, it was sort of underwhelming the sparsely populated Earth that they were allegedly, meant to be sort of the kings of that kingdom. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. You don't see many.
Yeah, man, and the film sort of like it creates other like animals throughout the film, I suppose, like in the form of like the different critters as Arlo calls them and stuff. And I just think the film just it feels like such a departure from the classic Pixar adventures that we're used to seeing. And it's not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion. It just I don't think it sits right in this universe created. You know, it just feels really strange. It feels like a more of like a low budget indie animated film than anything. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I I had no sense of the Pixar magic in this film. It just felt
Completely,
so
man.
bland.
It's a great point.
Yeah, there was nothing that invigorated it with, this classic making status of the Pixar films in general.
Sure.
Just to speak to the portrayal of the dinosaurs in the film a little bit. Uh, I know it's Pixar and we're used to, talking animals, talking insects, talking toys or whatever. But for some reason, I was like immediately taken aback that the dinosaurs spoke,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I thought it was going to be, I thought it was going to be the reverse of what was in this film, that it was going to be a speaking boy and a, silent dinosaur. But I guess they subverted my expectations in a positive manner.
Yeah, man, I agree. And like you mentioned perfectly at the start, there's sort of like a lack of dialogue in the film for like long sections of it. And I think that was really interesting because it sort of reminded me and I know we said it's not really like a Pixar film, but it's sort of a cross between Up, sorry, not Up, Wally, Wally in a sense for me, because the lack of dialogue there. But like, and it just seemed like a mishmash of different things we've already seen before. We've got the absence of dialogue from Wally, and I know these aren't Pixar projects, but I don't know if you've seen the animated film Dinosaur, the Disney one.
Uh, is that the one that looks really terrible with like their first attempt at like 3D animation,
Yes,
but it
that's
looks
it.
fucked?
That's the one.
Yeah,
It's sort of like
yeah,
yeah, it's sort of like a weird mishmash of Wally, Dinosaur, and the Lion King for me. And it's just I don't know if it works.
I'm gonna say quite definitively it doesn't really. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, man. But yeah, like you said about the dinosaurs being able to speak and stuff, it really it alarmed me that they're now farmers and they're really intelligent dinosaurs. That really just it didn't sit right with me at all.
yeah, and what mostly didn't sit right with me, when they were farming, is that they water their plants by spitting on them, basically. Uh, and I mean, there's not exactly any medical care or veterinary care for dinosaurs, so they're probably all going to die of some tropical illness.
Yeah, man. And the film is like I don't know if you noticed this. I know I'm being way too harsh so early on, but this movie may as well be called Bad Weather the movie because every major plot point is orchestrated by a storm or some sort of weather event.
Yeah, yeah, it felt quite like a lazy story element to just get the plot moving. But if you can't think of a good way to progress your plot, maybe you should recognize that your plot isn't any good.
Yeah, it's a really good
If they're
point.
like, for this movie to be the right runtime and for the plot to continue, we need a storm, and that's going to happen 3 or 4 times throughout the film.
Yeah.
Maybe just give up on the project.
Yeah, man. And I don't know if this film did do well at the box office. I mean, it's Pixar, it probably did great, but I don't know.
It
Do
did
you know?
not.
It didn't
It was Pixar's first financial failure.
really. I can
Yeah,
understand
I mean
why.
it received, I think, decent reviews, but I guess just I mean this movie completely passed me by. The marketing
Yeah,
just completely missed me, and I think that must have happened with pretty much everyone. And
yeah,
yeah, just no one went to see it really.
yeah, man. And like I know I've just criticized this film nonstop, but I promise this is probably going to be the last criticism I have. But for Pixar, I thought the animation and the dinosaurs was really poor. It reminded me of A Bug's Life in the sense that they're so like smooth and like green and stuff. Don't get me wrong, like the surroundings are animated beautifully, like the landscape, but I don't know, the dinosaurs just seem too way too cartoonish for like the more realistic landscape. Did you get that?
Yeah, and especially because Spot sort of is quite consistent with their normal, their normal human design.
Yeah.
So yeah, to sort of see more cartoonish, sort of lazy animation on the dinosaurs was sort of out of place.
I agree, man, completely. And like, I think maybe the film is sort of like you said, it is quite a lazy film in many regards, like you said perfectly. And I think that is probably evidence through the minimal plot points, really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I have quite a few points, but we can sort of get into the plot
Go for it,
now.
yeah. Go for it, man.
So right from the start, we see that Arlo's father, Papa, has created a sort of silo for the corn to keep the humans and other critters out, and he gives himself he basically gives himself a self high five,
Yeah.
toots his own trumpet. He's like, yeah, I fucking smashed this, and then puts his mark on it,
Yeah, man.
and then he slowly lets his wife and then his kids put their mark on it, and he sort of says that they need to earn their mark by completing jobs. But I mean, Arlo is clearly the weakest child. He's the smallest child, and then they give him the hardest job and then give him the most shit about not doing his job well. Like,
Yeah.
they're like plowing fields and he's getting chased by animals. Like, I don't really see how those are comparable. They're like, oh, Arlo,
Yeah.
you're shit at everything,
Yeah.
and they're giving him literally the only job where he's going out of his way to be attacked. Like, I just don't
It's a good
understand how
point.
how they can say he's doing the worst job of them.
I even thought the whole like you have to make your mark idea is just complete bullshit. Like it's just like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it's like
not.
it's like your parents saying, "Impress me,
Yeah,
impress me."
exactly. That's exactly what it is. Like it seems like, oh, you're not part of the family until you make your mark, sort of idea, which I didn't think was the right message for the film. You know?
Yeah, like, that's basically announcing to your children that you only had them so that they could be your free labor.
Yeah, man. And like they made the like the mark so high up. I'm surprised Arlo could reach it.
Yeah, he is tiny, but I guess for some reason, just when they stand on their hind legs, like they seem to grow by like an astronomical amount.
Yeah, man, I know, I know. I did like the subversion of like you expect Arlo to like be huge because he is like a huge egg, but he ends up being quite small. So I thought that was quite a nice subversion. It was a bit on the nose, but I did like it.
Yeah, and just going back to the jobs that they're given, I mean, if you were given the choice between plowing a field or being chased and attacked by something that's roughly your size or larger, which one are you choosing?
Plow in the field, definitely.
Yeah, even if it's with your face, I'd rather that than be chased by you know like dangerous animals that are my height.
Yeah, yeah, I know, man, and like I know they're not the most hygienic of animals, but like plowing the field with your face that's gonna hurt, right?
Presumably, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, if they're so advanced and they've clearly evolved intellectually, I'm sure they could have come up with a better system.
yeah, I
Surely,
know.
I mean, even a rock or something that they could have
Yeah,
like pulled through the soil.
it's a good
Like,
point.
I'd choose most things over my own face.
Yeah, just use your tail or something.
Yeah, because I mean, it seems to have quite concussive force. Because I
Yeah,
mean,
that
they
breaks
definitely like
through.
slap the shit out of people with it.
I know, man, I know. Have you got any
So,
other points to put at the
uh,
opening? Yeah.
well, opening to yeah, pretty much the opening.
Go for it.
So we see in these moments, in the farming sequences, that Arlo's dad was probably my favorite character in the film at the very beginning,
Yeah,
because he seemed very sweet. He was very nice to everybody. He didn't judge Arlo for his size, and he seemed to immediately love his children. Uh, and it's very weird to go sort of like from having zero kids to having like three that are running about the place.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I suppose that's lucky for him because he's planning on neglecting them and using them for labor. So good for
Good for
Papa.
him.
Uh, but I very quickly turned on Papa because he seemed like a real piece of shit, and he was treating Arlo very badly.
I
He
agree.
was blowing the trumpet of his other children, letting them make their mark for what one of them just like pulled down a couple of trees, and Arlo's literally getting attacked, and they say that he's not doing his job. He fed the animals; they just happened to run after him when he left.
Yeah.
He's doing his job, and he's doing the hardest job of them all. I mean, Arlo's dad seems to do absolutely fuck all other than tell his kids to do stuff.
Piece of shit.
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, absolute piece of shit. Uh, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that when they killed him off, and I am glad they killed him off, but I was glad at least in his final moments there was a glimpse of redemption. I didn't hate him in his last moments.
Yeah, and it is. I think it is completely his fault. His death is on his hands, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was like, Arlo, you're not doing your job. I'm gonna take you out into the like middle of nowhere,
Into
and
the
then
wilderness.
and then he died. So I mean, good. I'm glad. He deserved it.
Yeah. Like I don't know. I just I think the character I identify, maybe not identify is not the right word, but the character I sympathized with most in the film, strangely, is the non-speaking character of Spot. I thought his character was handled really, really well. I thought it was quite unique.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is one of the rare times where a complete absence of dialogue, they were still able to convey his emotions well. You know, they were able to convey that he's selfless and caring, and that, you know, I mean, I still don't think that he needed to steal from Arlo's
No,
family if he could so easily. You know, we see that he's really good at foraging and, you know, finding grapes and seeds and berries, and yet he's like, oh yeah, you know, I came across this huge stash uh, of of corn. It just happened to be in a silo, so I broke into it. You know,
yeah.
I just there's no connection there with me.
But see,
I
when we're
really don't think
speaking
he
about
needed
this
to
movie,
steal.
see when we're speaking about this, it seems like the weirdest movie of all time, like dinosaur farmers that are getting food stolen from little babies. Basically, it's the weirdest
It's
film ever.
bizarre, but like not even in it, not even in an interesting way. Like you would think a film this weird like would be, you know, exceptionally interesting, but it's not.
That's the thing, man. And I thought like well, while we're on the subject of sort of like Papa's death, and that sounds ridiculous even in itself. Like the movie makes the curious decision to flash back to his death, even though we saw it like 30 to 25 to 30 minutes
Uh,
ago. I
I
was like,
know.
what?
I feel like this film really panders to a younger audience, and they're sort of like
I
that
agree. Good
they're
point.
you know uh they're sort of adhering to the idea that, you know, really young kids have just no attention span. So I guess that was for their benefit. Uh, yeah, this
Completely.
film's kind of disappointing. I mean, I had low expectations going in, and it pretty much met those quite low expectations.
You know what it is, man?
Like, were you surprised at all by the quality of the film,
I,
or was it pretty much what you expected?
I thought like the opening like 2 minutes where it sort of it parodies the dinosaur extinction. I was like, this is going to be a really smart film. I love it already, and like I was expecting like hundreds, maybe not hundreds, but like tens of like dinosaur creatures that like have different personalities. The only dinosaurs in this film really are pterodactyls, a T-Rex, and like a weird triceratops, and and a Patasaurus. That is literally it. I was expecting so much other like cool dinosaurs. Like I think there's so many cool dinosaurs out there you could have chosen to like could have chosen to animate, but they just chose the most stereotypical, boring ones. Like every dinosaur
Yeah,
movie has a T Rex and a pterodactyl and a triceratops. Where's the Stegosaurus or something, or or
I
a
swear I
Spinosaurus?
thought you were gonna say Stegosaurus because it's literally the only other one I know.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I think there are things about this film I really do like, but I think it misses the mark as a dinosaur movie completely. I know that sounds ridiculous to say, but
Yeah, I'm not a particular, you know, stickler for that idea. You know, like give me a good movie. I'm not gonna go, but where's the Stegosaurus,
where's the
bitch?
where's the
Like,
where's
you
the
know,
fucking
like that
dinosaurs?
that just didn't run through my brain.
Yeah, but fair enough, man. Like, were you much of a dinosaur fan as a kid? Not really.
Oh no, not at all, not at all.
Fair enough.
I have zero interest. I can tell from the way you're speaking, you probably were.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, big fan. So dinosaur movies have a good place in my heart. I love them, but this one's still good, but it's just not doesn't hit the mark for me. Like you said, it's quite a lazy film overall.
Are there better examples in your opinion?
I think Dinosaur is better. Like, even though the animation's not great, I think it's a phenomenal film. What other dinosaur films are? I don't know if you could. I don't know if you could. You probably can't include the Croods in this, but I think the Croods is like a prehistoric
No,
film.
I wouldn't
Pretty
say
good.
so.
I like the
Yeah, it's a
Croods.
prehistoric film.
What other
Have you
dinosaur?
seen the dinosaur film and it's called like We're Back, and
Yeah, yeah,
has
it's
them
good.
entering the human world?
Yeah, it's good.
I remember loving that as a kid.
Yeah, it's so good, man. There is another dinosaur film, but I can't remember what it anyway. But yeah,
We definitely have to do nostalgia, as you said, but I'm sure that looking back on some kids' films that I remember loving, uh like the dinosaur film We're Back, and then there was another one called Help I'm a Fish.
okay.
And I'm
That
sure
sounds
they're shit
familiar.
looking back.
That sounds familiar. I'm just on. You can't really. Can you include Ice Age in dinosaur films? Probably not. Uh,
No, not really.
nah. No, that's all the ones I can think of. But there are some good ones out there, to be fair. And we'll definitely have to review the Jurassic Park films because I know you saw the original one last year, right?
yes, and I loved it. So yes, I would like to do the Jurassic Park films soon.
Absolutely.
But yes, they I would say that the first Jurassic Park film is a big step up from this.
But, yeah, I'm just happy to go by your general any further points you had, mate.
Yeah, sure. So sometimes in regards to gender roles, Pixar seems to usually stick to sort of stereotypes when it comes to
Yeah,
siblings. But I was very happy to see that when we met the T-Rex family, that the brother and the sister were equally as nice to Arlo. They were equally considerate,
absolutely.
compassionate, and for once in like older brother figure isn't a dickhead. It was a rare sight that I really appreciated.
I thought so too. And the voice of Sam Elliott as what's the is it Chuck or something? Oh, what's the dinosaur name?
Uh
It's
See,
something like that.
they should make this easier to remember.
I know, but
I thought
Sam
it was
Elliott.
something like Blunt or Bleeze or something. I
Yeah,
don't I don't know.
Sam Elliott's voice is just so iconic as well, isn't it? And I expected the T Rexes to be sort of like, you know, really like dicks, but they're actually like pretty nice. Like they're pretty friendly to Arlo and they help him.
Yeah, it did surprise me, and I suppose equally with that, it surprised me that the pterodactyls were villains because I
Absolutely.
didn't actually think there was going to be sort of an antagonistic figure in this film because I mean it doesn't really need it, and I guess the pterodactyls aren't really that evil. They're sort of just complying to their nature. That they need to eat, so they plan to eat.
Yeah.
It's not really antagonistic. So I suppose this film is sort of absent. Uh, is sort of lacking a villain, but not necessarily to its detriment. Other than Arlo's dad, who's it just seems that I usually hate the Pixar characters' parents, like Eleanor, last episode with Brave, fucking abysmal character,
You know
and
what?
now Arlo's dad.
You know what?
Hmm?
I thought the whole pterodactyl like sort of villainy was pretty good because it sort of seems like they've developed a cult worship for like the storm in the film, and I thought that was quite funny because it sort of seems like they've gone crazy from all the storms and stuff, and I actually I'd like if the film had more like really interesting dinosaur side characters like that. We see like a triceratops who has like a collection of critters, and I thought that was quite great. But no, I just wish we saw more of that because I thought it had a lot of potential there.
Yeah. So we see the characters of Arlo and Spot on the final stretch back to Arlo's home. And
Absolutely.
just Spot, sorry, Arlo is using his mouth to just toss Spot in the air,
Yeah.
and he literally
Yes.
tosses this tiny baby above cloud cover.
Yeah. I put this down in my notes. He's dead if he doesn't catch him.
He's dead. Yeah, like 100%.
How funny would that be though if he just like flips him up and then splats and he's just like that would have been
I
dark.
mean, isn't he? He's literally just like wearing, like basically a towel around his waist. So I mean, Arlo is definitely not going to be confidently catching him each time he throws him up. Like he is 100% dead.
Yeah, even the force against like both Arlo and Spot should be dead. Arlo's neck is snapped, and also Spot is just like they're both dead, right?
Yeah, definitely. Also, yeah, the way they sort of use like the like what type of dinosaur is Arlo?
And a Patasaurus, I think.
Yeah, so they sort of represent that type of dinosaur as having sort of like a very maneuverable, flexible neck, but surely that's all bone.
Yeah, just yeah.
I mean, I suppose it's like cartilage, so it
Yeah,
can
that's a
sort
good
of
point.
weave, but it definitely can't wrap around things like that.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Yeah, like we're not dinosaur experts here on the channel, so we're not viewers. So please don't hate us in the comments or anything. Mate, one thing I wanted to ask
No,
you during that scene was, we have you seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, the Wes Anderson one?
I have not.
Okay, well, you know the scene in the Good Dinosaur where, like, as you said, Spot and Arlo are in the home stretch, and then they see like a human in the distance, sort of like in the sunset.
Yeah.
I think that scene is directly copied from a scene in Fantastic Mr. Fox. And you know the way the human like wolf howls, like that scene is completely ripped off from Fantastic Mr. Fox. So I don't know if it was intentional, but it was exactly the same shot and exactly the same sort of like, well, concept really. So I thought that was really weird to include.
Yeah, Disney seem kind of like scumbags. Like they do seem to often rip off less successful films and then reskin them
Yeah,
with a bit of the Pixar magic, and then suddenly they're billionaires.
yeah,
It does seem quite sketchy.
it does.
But
It does.
yeah, I've written that I expected Arlo to increase in confidence, but I did not expect reckless child endangerment.
Yeah, I know. I know. I do like his character development from like a fearful young Apatosaurus to like like a strong sort of leader like his father. So I thought that was really great. And it was weird because um have you seen Gravity with Sandra
I
Bullock?
have not.
No.
I have
But
not.
there's a scene there where she that sort of like dreams of a deceased character, and in this film it was sort of it reminded me of that when Ardo dreams of seeing his dad. But no, I thought that was a nice scene in the film as well. But I I did sort of expect, like, for a second I was like, is he seriously alive? Because I'm gonna be so annoyed here.
Yeah, I was so glad when it was revealed that he was still dead, because I was like, that bitch don't deserve to live. But also just for the sake of the quality of the film, I was really not wanting him to be alive.
Yeah. To be fair, like I think if Arlo could survive a storm and like being like washed down a river, his dad probably could as well, right?
Yeah, but I guess you know that it looked like that they had dug a hole for him, so I assumed they did recover the body and buried him.
It's a good point, actually. Yeah, I never thought about that. Maybe he's probably dead again.
Oh, I mean, hopefully so. I don't want to see Papa again. But right before Arlo finally releases Spot and lets him be part of a new family, he announces that he loves him.
Yeah, yeah,
Question
yeah,
mark. And I've written bit quick, because I mean
yeah,
it seems that he only likes him for his ability to help him.
yeah.
He
Good
like he
friend.
doesn't actually seem to like him for any reason other than he's useful.
Yeah, I actually thought the one scene I thought maybe did sort of capture some Pixar magic is when they sort of make their family, and this sounds ridiculous to viewers who haven't seen this, but when they make their family out of sticks and then draw a circle around them, I thought that was really sweet and endearing because it's I don't know how Spot's surviving in the wilderness. Like he's a 7-year-old kid with like a Tarzan style
Theft.
underpants uh garment, so I don't know how he's surviving in the wilderness.
Yeah, I mean, how's the water there even drinkable? Like I just don't understand how you're not dying of like typhoid, or I guess because this is in you know this is in a period of time where it's millions of years after the dinosaurs were meant to have gone extinct. So surely there are a whole host of diseases that humanity had gotten to by that period in time.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. But no,
Um,
I did like Spot to be honest, but maybe the declaration of love was a bit soon, right?
yeah. And we see right after that the pterodactyls take Spot away, and I thought the pterodactyls were very mannerly and not eating him right away, and basically leaving Arlo enough time to rescue him.
I
Quite
thought
nice
so.
of
I
them.
thought so. They just put him in a tree trunk, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, and then go, oh, this is what the storm provided. But I mean, Arlo is like half an hour behind them, and then he eventually like lumbers his way to them, and like they're still there, just like, yeah, fuck it, who even cares
Yeah.
anymore?
Mate, did it sort of seem curious to you that like none of the dinosaurs eat each other in this film? Like the T-Rex just like throws the pterodactyls and the velociraptors away instead of like eating them to consume. Like the T-Rexes are huge in this film. They need a lot of food to survive and like herd those longhorns. Like eat the pterodactyls, pal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I don't really understand. Sort of, the dinosaurs are one, uh, you know, race, and then there's species of dinosaurs within that. So
Mhm.
I don't really understand sort of the logic of cannibalism, because I mean, you see that fish eat fish, some birds eat other birds. So
Sure.
like, is a dinosaur eating another dinosaur cannibalism? I don't know, because I don't
It's a
know
good
how
point. It's a good
closely
question.
linked they are. I
Yes.
mean, I assume whether it is or not, many of them wouldn't care.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing about the animal kingdom. Like there are no rules, are they? Are there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they just don't have the same level of morality,
Good point.
or
It's a good
or
point.
but even sort of evolutionarily developed, instincts and uh, diet, could play a factor, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because I've never really thought like if you take it to like more of a modern day example, like I've never heard of a lion eating another lion, but I'd imagine if the time called for it, like if it was starving, a lion probably would eat a lion. But do you know what I
I
mean? Like it's
guess.
not like lions don't hunt each other; they hunt buffalo or whatever or zebra, but they don't like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. I
weird.
definitely
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. So in the final moments he has with Spot, he finally allows him to join the new family, and I'm really glad that they didn't ignore the other family. I'm like I'm glad they didn't allow Arlo to be so selfish as to keep Spot for himself. So
Yeah.
I definitely think the right decision was made.
I think so too. I that was probably one of my favorite moments of the film because, but the only thing that ruins it for me is like it seems like a really tearful, prolonged goodbye, but you realize like the family probably live pretty close to Spot's farm, to Arlo's farm if they're like a mountain, like if they're just like a walk away. Do you know what I mean? Like they probably still visit each other.
Yeah, yeah, like you're probably going to be fine. Also, I mean, yeah, sure. Like Spot seems nice, but I mean, if he can't speak and he can't communicate either, how have you gauged his personality? You know, he might be a terrible person that just happens to give you some grapes. Like, yeah,
Absolutely,
I just
that's a
don't
good
know.
point. It's a really good point. That's a really good point. Have you got any other concluding points, mate?
Well, just on the very ending of the film, did you think that his family seemed really upset to see him? Because I mean, his mum sort of sees a dinosaur in the horizon, and then she's like, Henry, like
Yeah, yeah.
hoping that it's her husband, and this is like, for fuck's sake, it's
Uh,
just Arlo who gives
just
a fucking
fucking
flying
Arlo.
shit.
Yeah, I know.
Like she seems so underwhelmed.
Yeah. Also, like she's probably dead, right? Soon. She looks pretty old.
I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, I have no idea what the lifespan of dinosaurs
No,
is,
that's a good point as
and
well. I don't know either.
Arlo doesn't seem particularly old,
Yeah.
so I'm sure she has some good years left in her.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so. Like, did you have any other points, bud?
Not nothing more for me.
No worries. What rating would you give out of 10? I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Well, I have to say, there's nothing overtly wrong with this film, but there's not much good either.
Yeah.
I kind of like how much I kind of enjoy how much I hate the dad. Like, that's not me criticizing the film because I
Yeah.
mean, some dads are like that, so I find it kind of funny that I hate him so much. Uh, and I like seeing some character development for Arlo, so I have to give it a certain level of respect. But it's quite dull. The plot meanders for a lot of it. There's nothing much going on for a solid chunk of the film. And
Yeah.
as you said, the universe sort of seems sparsely populated. It doesn't feel like a real existence.
Yeah.
So I'm probably gonna give it like 5.5.
5.5. That's good. That's fair, man. That's
Is
fair.
that, is that a bit harsh?
No, I think that's fair.
Like five
I
five
thought
and a half
I thought
slash six.
yeah. I thought made some really great points in there, mate, and I agree with everything you said. For me, I think it's a perfectly serviceable film. Like there's nothing outlandishly bad about it. As you said, great character development for Arlo and a great score as well. I thought, and I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. It's a bit of a nothing film for me, and it doesn't feel like Pixar, so that's why it's not probably up there with like
Yeah,
one of my favorite films. But it's okay. Like it's not bad, but
yeah.
not great.
It's an inoffensive kids film. Like
Exactly,
what
exactly.
there isn't much to criticize here. There just isn't much to be enjoyed either.
Yeah, and I think something you said at the sort of the start of the podcast was when you said it was more of a aimed at a younger audience, and I think this is maybe the most like classic kids film out of every Pixar film for me. It feels more like
Yeah.
aimed at a younger audience, like you said. So yeah, I completely agree with that, man.
Yeah, and I feel like unless you're a real, paleontologist, I think dinosaurs are largely something that are used to sort of introduce kids to history. I
Yeah, that's a very
think
good point.
I think this sort of concept appeals quite a lot to younger children because I feel like that's when you have like I think most kids go through a dinosaur phase.
Yeah, completely, man, completely. Um, did you want to move on to our second film of today then? Let's do it. Let's do it. So, Finding Dory, is it? Yeah.
Yes, Finding Dory is what we're covering next. And I just wanted to ask you straight out of the gate, is this film necessary at all?
You know what? I don't think it's necessary, but it's. I have a really hot take here. Like, this is my new like favorite Pixar classic. Like, it's not. It,
What?
no, literally, like I love this film, and it's not like my favorite. It's not as good as like Monsters University or like Monsters Inc. or Up or anything for me. But I absolutely thought this was incredible. I loved it.
So this is like the entered the vault of like your top five or so.
I would say top five. Yeah, yeah, for definitely. I think it's better. I think it's better than the
Okay.
first. You
Well,
disagree?
it's just that I'd never seen Finding Nemo. I'd never seen Finding Dory, and I was much more satisfied with where Finding Nemo left off than where I was with how this film ended. You know, like this film gives some backstory for Dory. It gives Dory closure. Uh, but I don't know. It just felt really unnecessary for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I
Yeah,
respect that.
I've very little to say on this film, quite honestly.
No worries. Um, so I'm happy to just go by any of your opening points, bud, and I'll chip in when I can if that works.
Yeah, sure. So, right out of the gate, we're aware that these events are taking place a year after Finding Nemo,
Sure.
and I was very happy to see that they'd welcomed Dory into the family.
I thought that was really sweet. Yeah, yeah. And it's you know what, like we have criticized Martin, I suppose, to a certain extent in the first film, and we've sort of said
I
in
will
other.
continue to do so here.
And we've sort of mentioned how he's a bit of a nothing character in the first film, but here I actually really loved him, and I sort of love how Nemo sort of encourages him to be more accepting of Dory's sort of short-term memory loss and stuff. But one thing I will say about the film, I think that Dory's amnesia does become a bit of an annoying plot thread pretty early on, and just continues to do so
Yeah,
throughout the film.
yeah, I would say pretty much immediately. When she's sort of pissed. Like usually, I really hate Marlon. He seems like a knobhead for most of the film. But when he's being very overt about the teacher not wanting her to wander off, and then she interprets that as being a teacher's assistant. That has nothing to do with short term memory loss. That's just her communication skills. And I feel like we can criticize her for being a bit naive and sort of an inconvenience, arguably. But yes, I do feel that her short term memory loss wore thin quite
Yeah,
quickly in this film.
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we see Marlon acting like a knobhead again, and he seems pretty selfish. Initially, not wanting to help Dory. He said, "We've made our travel across the ocean," and what he really means is, I've helped myself. You've helped me. We're done. I went across the ocean to find Nemo, and I'm the main character. I'm the big deal.
I'm
So
Marlon.
fuck you. I'm Big Dick Marlon. So I don't know. He just
Big
seemed like
Dick
a dickhead
Marlon.
once again.
Oh no, you know what the funny thing is? I had the point in my notes when Marlon goes, "We've done our ocean travels," and I said, "I love Marlon's sarcasm," but he's probably not being sarcastic there, has he?
Oh wait, no, no, not for a second. He's saying, we're done. Let's be safe. Let's stay here.
Yeah,
Let's not risk anything because I've already lost Nemo once. Uh,
I can
so
understand
so
that,
yeah, like
but I can
he's just
understand
being a
Marlon's
dickhead.
selfish. Yeah, one thing I
Like
could,
I mean,
yeah,
Dory is literally the only reason he found Nemo,
yeah.
and now he won't risk anything to help her.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that, man. And one thing I do think the film does really well is create really compelling side characters. One of my favorites, and we've talked about this in the podcast before, like more identifying with the side characters of the film rather than the leads. I really like Destiny the whale shark. I thought she was a really interesting character, and I really
Fair.
liked Hank the octopus. But how can octopuses breathe in air? Is that a thing?
Um,
Because I didn't think they could.
I guess because they sort of uh maintain a lot of moisture in their body. Like they're slippery and slimy. I guess they're always wet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they need less time in the water. But why is he able to camouflage himself? Is that just a little bit of Pixar movie magic? Like he's able to act as like a chameleon.
Yeah, I don't know much about octopuses, but I don't think they can breathe in air, and I don't think they can camouflage. Maybe they can. If you know about octopuses, viewers, let us know in the comments. But no, I really like his character and the development he goes through in the film. But him and Destiny were my favorites. Did you have any particular side characters you liked, or not really?
Yes, Hank was by far my favorite character of the film. I would say probably my only, I would say one of the only good characters in the film, because all of the other ones were pretty much just, annoying, tedious, completely inept. It's just a lot of this film was painful to watch
Fair enough, man. Fair
for
enough.
for me, somewhat.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
I wish for one Pixar film that has sort of talking animals that they didn't portray humans as total garbage.
Yeah, yeah. Like, do you think they didn't present humans as garbage in this? Yeah,
No, no, they did. Because I mean, like, there's always just humans are taking fish away from their family.
yeah.
Uh,
It's sort of.
uh,
Go ahead, man.
Sorry, there was a little background noise
You're
there for
okay.
me. It just seems that they always have a human committing some sort of fish related atrocity in these films.
You know what it is, man, and I really wanted to ask you this because I think now is a good chance to sort of get into this. But what is your thoughts on like zoos and aquariums and stuff? Because obviously the main like sort of point of this film, or the main sort of setting of this film, is in like a marine park where like it seems like the animals are for the most part treated well, and it seems like they plan to release them back into the wild after their like rehabilitation and quarantine or whatever, or whatever exhibit they're in. But I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you think about zoos? Because part of me does like them, but then part of me doesn't probably is probably not educated enough to speak about it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I've never been a fan. I am sort of opposed to the idea of capturing something to be looked at.
Yeah,
It sort of doesn't sit right with me. I kind of think aquariums, where it's just fish in water, and they're perfectly happy in a habitat that's appropriate and safe for them. They're
sure.
in water surrounded by other fish. I think that's okay. But then sort of to train up, dolphins and sharks to do tricks. That's where I think that sort of draws the line, because you're taking them out of their habitat. You're segregating them from other animals of their species, not allowing them to mate or enjoy their life, and then training them to be sort of your dancing monkey. Yeah, I'm not really into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, I think in some instances, like zoos and aquariums can do good work and sort of, uh, you know, helping animals who are like injured and stuff like that. But then I suppose in some instances, like there's animals who are like are in zoos and aquariums who are clearly not endangered, but they're just there anyway for like the public's enjoyment, which I don't agree with and stuff. And there's definitely not enough space in zoos and aquariums for those animals to be like survive, well, not to survive but to thrive in that environment. So it's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because there's a lot of like I'm not educated enough to probably like give you like details or anything, but there is a lot of like arguments for and against them. But I probably would overall like probably stand against it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, so I was very confident early on that Dory's parents were super dead.
Yeah.
Like, so confident. I was like, they're definitely dead. And I guess in that regard, they surprised me.
Yeah, would you rather they killed them off?
No, like I sort of appreciated like what I considered the finality of Finding Nemo. So I sort of wanted to I wanted a non-ambiguous ending for this continuation. So
Yeah.
I was glad to see it sort of wrap up with a happy ending. That is usually my preference for film. Other than when I sort of appreciate an incredibly bleak but still conclusive ending. But I quite like the confident and happy wrap up that this film had.
That's great, man. I sort of thought for a second like there was potentially going to be a villainous twist with Dory's parents, that like they intentionally got rid of Dory or something. I thought it was going to go like
Yes, 100%.
a really dark. I actually wouldn't have minded that. I think that would have been quite cool.
Yeah, because we see that she remembers her parents and she remembers getting lost, but she doesn't remember the moments in between. So I was thinking that whenever uh, Dory went out to find that purple shell and they're having that private chat, I did think they were going to be like, yeah, let's just get rid of her, and
Yeah,
then they were
yeah,
going to like
yeah.
boot her into the undertow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was actually somewhat surprised that they weren't villains, which probably is me not being very trusting.
No, me too, man. And one character I really did like in the film was the sea lions. Not the sea lions. I thought they were really great and funny. Was that Idris Elba? Yeah,
That was Idris Elba, yeah.
he is such a
And
good man,
my
doesn't
my he's amazing in this film. But my big question is like, what the fuck did Gerald do to like have them be so disgusted with the idea of him sitting on their rock? Like, is he some sort of like sea lion sex criminal? Like,
he?
what has he done? Like, what has he done in
A
the sea
sea
lion
lion.
community?
I know. There is one line in the film, and in relation to like sort of sea lion sex criminals, where Hank goes, "Stay away, stay clear of people, especially kids. I don't want to be touched." I thought that was such a strange line for having the film.
I guess it's just because you get sort of that payoff when someone pokes him and he like inks out
Yeah.
the entire water.
Do touch pools exist? And I've never went to an aquarium and there's been a touch pool.
I've never been to an aquarium, but yeah, I wouldn't have thought they existed because I assume grabbing fish, no matter how disposable or expendable they're considered, I wouldn't have thought
Yeah,
any aquarium would want you viciously grabbing or poking at any sea life,
I
especially an
know.
octopus.
Yeah, I thought that scene was really well done because it sort of has like a funny sort of comedic horror aspect to it, where like starfish are just being yanked here and everywhere, which is quite. It was, I suppose, it was intended to be funny, but when you probably consider that in real life, it's probably not a pleasant experience for the animals.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I guess it was intended as sort of a parody of a war film with
Yeah,
bombs going off.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's a good
and
point.
yeah, I really appreciated that. And then sort of the ink signifying sort of the stream of blood. So
That's a
yeah,
really
I,
good
I
point,
thought that was very
actually.
creative.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah. So I think for the most part, this film is a little too much like Finding Nemo because it's a ocean wide adventure where they're searching for a lost member of their family.
Yeah,
I definitely conceptually it's similar, but I feel like the constant reunions then separations that they're painful to watch. Like Dory finds her parents and then is ripped apart. Then she finds Nemo and
yeah,
Marlin ripped apart. Then she finds Hank ripped apart. Then she finds Nemo and
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
what's his name, Marlin ripped apart. Then her parents again ripped apart. And then she's all alone. And then they're reunited. It was too much for me. I
Fair
I,
enough.
I did not enjoy that at all.
One thing I sort of did miss about the film was sort of like the absence of the Australian magic that we saw in the first film, strangely.
Yeah, I feel like with that missing, they were still able to replicate some sort of magic for me with Ed O'Neill as Hank. I think Hank
Yeah,
carries the film.
yeah, man, completely. And I thought like the ridiculousness of the final car chase in the film was. I actually really enjoyed that. I thought that was really comedic and really great. And it's sort of. I think the film improves on Finding Nemo just because of like the variation in setting and stuff for me, and I personally love that, but I can understand if it's not to everyone's taste.
Yeah, and to be fair, I was holding out hope secretly that Dory's parents were alive because I am sometimes a sucker for the happy ending, as I said.
Yeah,
So it did please me to see them.
that's nice, man. Likewise, mate. Likewise, I sort of like how all the characters sort of move back to the Australian coral reef. I thought that was a nice ending that all of them were back together. And like, do you think this movie needs a sequel? Do you think we'll get a sequel?
I think it performed well at the box office. And it's been what 5 years has it or 4 years somewhere in
4 years,
in that
yeah.
realm.
Probably.
I I, I think it's probably too late. I think any excitement or buzz that it had around it is probably gone. They may try to do a sequel, but I don't think it would be too successful. And I
Yeah.
mean, with Pixar's run on sequels, they're usually a bit iffy.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Matt. I think here's a good sort of place to leave it, but it is sad because I think the Finding Nemo franchise sort of has a lot of I have a lot of fond memories with it, especially like this film, and I don't know, I just And I had a really good time with it, man. Surprisingly, I thought I wouldn't, but I really did.
Mm. I mean, just to close it out for me, I am very glad that Hank chose the ocean because I don't think going from, one exhibit to another would have been the right decision for him. He sort of seems like he said that he had bad experiences in the past with the ocean, but I think he just didn't have the wonderful and warm company of Dory and such. I keep going to
Absolutely.
say like the character of Finding Dory and the character of Finding Nemo,
Yeah,
and
man, I know what you mean.
I blame Pixar for that.
I think there is like like actually that reminds me. Do you know sometimes when like some people would call the character of uh oh, what's her name? Uh, uh it'll come back. Hold on, Merida from Brave. You know where some people were like, "Oh, do you know the character Brave? It sort of reminds me of that a little
Do
bit."
they?
Yeah, some people are like, "Oh,
Okay.
Brave. You know that girl Brave." I think that's quite fun.
Or from the Legends of Zelda, they go, "Oh, Zelda,"
Yeah,
but it's Link.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Frankenstein instead of Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, we're like, the guy, the old dude called Up or something.
I don't know if
No,
they'd
no,
go that
no,
far.
I don't think anyone does that. But no, mate,
Or
do you have any concluding?
would you ever be pedantic enough to like correct someone if they kept saying Frankenstein instead of Frankenstein's monster?
I don't think I would, but I can understand why it would be annoying. Do you think you would?
I wouldn't correct them, but like it does make me wince when I hear it.
Listen, man, do you have any concluding points about the film, mate?
No, nothing more for me.
No worries.
Anything else from you?
No, I mean, I'm just happy to go into ratings. What would you give it out of 10? Because it seems like sort of like a mixed bag for you, was it?
Yeah. So in comparison to Finding Nemo, obviously this should be considered a sequel to Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not as good, but sort of takes plot elements from that and sort of does them worse. Uh, I enjoyed the happy ending. I enjoyed the Dory's parents were alive, and they actually surprised me by doing that. Hank is probably one of the best original additions to a Pixar film that we've had in a while.
Yep.
Uh, so yes, it sort of did add a few interesting elements to the franchise. I'm gonna give it like a solid 6.5
That's great, man.
slash 7.
That's great, man. And I really respect your points, man. I think you made some great ones in there. And like for me, I think this film improves in the first just because of the variation in setting and characters. And I loved how it was set in like an aquarium and stuff. And like I said, the side characters of Destiny, Bailey, and Hank really appealed to me, and I love that. And I'd probably like it's not on the level of like a Monsters Inc. or a Monsters University, like I said, but I'd still have to give it a 10. But it's like a low 10. Do you get me? It's not like a upper
Yeah,
echelon
sure.
10. But I had a great time with this, surprisingly, man. But anyway, did you want to hop into our third and final film of today?
Yes, which is Cars 3.
We're finishing off
A,
the
a
Cars
film that
franchise.
yes, a film that I have been dying to watch because you told me when we reviewed Cars that you probably considered that to be the best of the three, and I have so far wildly disagreed with you,
Yeah.
and that continues today.
Man, listen, I actually have I had a great time with this film. I think this and Cars 1 are quite similar in the sense that like they're both more racing inspired, but I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this because this is a very different film from Cars 2, isn't it?
Yes, it is wildly different, and they sort of abandon all meter and spy related elements. They don't really reference any of those events. It is pretty much it is pretty much a direct sequel to Cars 1, but I would argue not similar at all, thankfully, because
Mhm.
I actually enjoyed this one.
Go for it, man. I'm just happy to go by your points because I think this film it's more like what's the word? It's sort of more plot focused towards the start, strangely enough, and nothing much really happens in the middle for me. It's more like the start. Do you get me sort of?
Yeah, I sort of think the second act sort of peters around, but yeah, I think Act One and Act Three are pretty plot filled. I mean, yeah, Act Three sort of it has a big, you could I guess consider action set piece with the huge race.
Yeah.
So I guess that's not plot, but there is a lot going on within that. So I think I think this film's pretty consistent, and there's a lot of plot to focus on.
Yeah, man, go for it.
So the film opens with Lightning once again racing, but before he starts, he recites his classic mantra, and I'm thinking, why would you ever say that out loud? Because it's the cringiest, most embarrassing thing I've ever heard.
I
And
am.
every time he's on the track and does it, people take the piss out of him. So why does he keep doing it? You're
Yeah,
like, what the fuck are you doing? And
yeah,
he's still like, whoops, like
yeah.
just say it in your
Faster
head.
than
I'm
fast,
sorry.
quicker than quick. I am lightning.
Ugh. Do you think he gave himself the name Lightning, or do you think it's his actual name?
Oh, that's a good. That's a good. Like, it turns out his name's like a really boring one. It's like John Smith or something, but he's just like, my name's Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, I mean, we had Doc Hudson called himself the Hudson Hornet, which I think's a bit arrogant. But I mean, so I can definitely picture Lightning McQueen calling himself that. I doubt his given name was Lightning.
What are your thoughts on like? And this is going to be quite a weird question. Like people who give like celebrities and also serial killers who give themselves the name. Like the way the Zodiac was like, "Cult, it's hi, it's the
Yeah,
Zodiac here." Like it seems just so like petty, doesn't it?
I mean, I think for serial killers is a different thing.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're a serial killer, it's like 50-50 that they're gonna give you like a pretty shit name.
Yeah.
All the I mean, pretty much the only ones that have nicknames give it to themselves, and you want to leave a mark without people knowing your name. So I mean, if you want people to refer to you as something that you consider cool,
Fair
I guess
enough.
go
Go for
for
it.
it. I mean, don't go for the murders.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you've already done them, I guess
Good
have
point.
have a sick name.
What would be
But
what would be your racing name or superhero name?
I swear I thought you were going to say a serial killer name, and
No.
I don't abide by that. Racing name, I don't know. Uh, the I, well, I can't use my surname. It would be my surname, like my surname, the Comet or something.
That's actually pretty good. I like that. I like that. That's
Like, what would you go for?
mine would be um I don't know. I was gonna go like Matthew the Marvelous, but that sounds so arrogant.
Yeah, it does.
I'm not going for I'm not going for that.
Like, I
But
feel like if they're not speed related, they just come off as arrogant because they're not even relevant. Like
yeah.
I think calling yourself Lightning McQueen is passable, but to call yourself like what is he calls himself something at the end of the film like uh
Oh,
oh, what is it? He
the
called it the
fabulous Lightning
spectacular
McQueen or
lightning or
something.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
the oh fuck yeah, something like that. Jeez. I
But
mean, if you're dealt like a shitty hand of a name, I guess I understand changing your name.
yeah, that
So
makes sense.
I get when celebrities do it.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. I agree.
So the huge crux of the plot of this film is that Lightning McQueen is falling behind the newbies of racing,
Yeah.
including what is it, Storm, like Storm
Jackson's
something,
Jackson's story.
Jackson Storm. So he's fallen behind the noobs of the racing world, uh, and the whole plot of the film is that he's losing his edge. And I'm just wondering if you were in Lightning's position, like, would you care if you had to retire? I mean, because I mean, you're retiring off presumably being a millionaire and then going into a shit ton of brand deals. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't you rather go out on top and then just retire with your huge
Yeah.
wealth?
That's a really good point. I really like how the film and this sort of thing does happen like in every sports sort of game, and I just like how it sort of reflects the real life sports world perfectly, in the sense that I sort of like the transition from in the first film like Lightning was the rookie, the new quick racer on the scene, and now he's sort of like the old sort of legend, like living legend who's racing, and yeah, I do agree with you. He shouldn't really care that much because I think like he's already won like the record amount of piston cups or whatever. So you're already a legend, mate. So
Yeah,
I wouldn't worry about it.
yeah. I think I would know when to call it a day, and it would probably be when I'm rich and still on top. I think probably the first time you like lose a race by a drastic position, I
Yeah,
think that's when it's time to call it quits because
your
we see
legacy's
them
intact,
comment
I
on
suppose.
how terrible a season he's had. But I
Mhm.
mean, he wouldn't if he had just given up. I mean that sounds bad,
No, I
but
know what you mean, man.
if
I
I
know what
were
you
in
mean.
his position, it seems like a lot of sports people, retire in their like 20s or 30s because they don't want to ruin their body, and they already know that they've achieved the peak success that they will ever have. So
Yeah.
I think Lightning's just bad at realizing when it's his time.
Yeah, it's really interesting you mentioned that because recently in the sports world, Conor McGregor just retired a few days ago.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so like it's because McGregor's retired a number of times, but it's usually just for publicity. So I'd take it with a pinch of salt. But like it's really it is like you said. I suppose it's important to choose between like continuing on like Lightning goes in this film, but maybe like retiring when you're at the top. So it is a really interesting debate, man.
Yeah. And I would say probably one of my favorite scenes of the film is when lightning crashes. Not for a grim reason, but I just enjoyed that they were managed to
Yeah,
show a car crash that didn't involve a human, but it still seemed really visceral. Like every
absolutely.
time like a piece of paint chipped off, it seemed like he was getting like beaten the shit out of.
It
And
seems so
I
so
didn't
well
expect
done.
them to. Yeah, I didn't expect them to be able to convey that through a car.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it's intended to sort of mimic the Hudson Hornets crash as well, which I think is great. And like one thing I wanted to ask about the film, we see sort of like Jackson Storm's sort of new breed of racers. Like they're a lot more, they're a lot quicker than Lightning's kind, and they're also like follow the optimum path around the track. I just wanted to ask you, like, do you
Yeah.
think do you think those what was the question? Yeah, it was going to be like was Jackson Storm built? Do you think, or do you think was Jackson Storm was like I don't know because it's hard to say whether the cars are. I know we've mentioned this as well in the podcast, but like whether the cars are born or they're built because it seems like Jackson Storm should be like definitely illegal if he's like programmed to follow the optimum path around the track. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from the rules that they've mentioned, I think that their chassis must be built.
Hmm.
Uh, but then, yeah, it seemed like Jackson Storm had like technology that helped him out during the race, and even at the end of the film when Cruz is racing, as Lightning McQueen's sort of rally partner, like
Yeah.
she still has sort of this shrink wrapped suit that like can detect her speed, which
Yeah.
I also think is sort of like a that seems like a technical violation, surely.
Yeah, it does, man. It does. It does. Like, I
Like
thought,
that, that seems like taking performance enhancing drugs. Like
yeah, it does.
if you can have like an unnatural amount of speed, the no other car can match. It seems a bit suspicious.
Yeah, I really do like the rivalry between Jackson Storm and Lightning though in the film because I think it's a really good sort of dynamic there, and I think it's is it Arnie Hammer who voices Storm? I think he does a great job.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Would you have liked to have seen them sort of warm up to each other by the end, like like Lightning and Francesco in Cars 2?
I would have potentially and I have a lot to say about the ending and my sort of problems with the ending in the film, but I wouldn't have been against like Lightning sort of accepting that Storm is like the superior racer and then maybe like coaching him or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that would have been good. Yeah. Especially because like a lot of beefs in the sport world are usually for media
Yeah,
publicity, and
sure.
that they're for the cameras, they're for the public to get behind the rivalry. So
Absolutely.
I would have liked to see maybe sort of a commentary on that where Storm's actually really nice to Lightning behind closed doors.
Absolutely. And like I think I think it's like Storm. He doesn't seem like too much of a bad guy either. Like he seems. I know he's supposed to be like the antagonist of the film, and he's quite. He says some like nasty, ill-timed jokes towards Lightning and stuff. But I don't think he's not like. I think he's just doing it for like the competitiveness of the sport. You know.
Yeah, I mean he just wants to win the race as much as Lightning does. Like I don't really see that's in direct opposition to Lightning's goal, but it's also the same as his. So I don't think can't criticize
Yeah.
his intentions. I don't think
Yeah. It's a good point, man. It's a really good
so.
point.
We find out that Storm is using cutting edge technology, including a simulator, to build up his racing experience and increase his speed. And there is a phrase that they use in description of the simulator where they say it's just like a real track. So why not use a real track? Like it just seems like the dumbest logic I've ever heard. They're like, oh yeah, it's almost exactly like a track. And then thankfully Lightning realizes this when he decides to start training on the beach. But yeah, it just seemed bizarre to me that
I know,
anyone would
man.
rather use a simulator than actual track time.
I know, man. And like, is it the character? Is it Sterling? Is his manager? Isn't it?
Yeah, played
Yeah.
by Nathan Fillion.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting, man. And I think that that character, I suppose, is intended to be quite sort of shallow and quite sort of money focused as well. And like one line sort of similar to what you said is when he goes to Lightning, you're about to become the future of marketing in the racing world, I think. But like I don't know, isn't Lightning supposed to be like the old generation racer? Like if you're gonna want to market someone, usually in sports it's always like the new up and coming rookie who's like killing it right now. I don't think I think the movie could have went down a more interesting route of Lightning losing his fame and stuff rather than him still being like a really like a top notch marketing success. Because I think I think the film could have potentially presented an arc where Lightning's okay with not being number one anymore.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I sort of like to see, Lightning's passion for the race. That
Mhm.
it isn't money that's his goal. It's being number one. But I
Yeah,
mean, that's also kind of self involved. I mean,
yeah,
there's no issue with wanting to be the best, I guess. But if it's sort of, you want to make someone lose, which is kind of what he wants with Jackson Storm. He's like I barely want to win. I just want to show this guy up,
yeah.
which I think's a bit questionable. Excuse me while I turn my page.
No worries, man.
I'm done. So I'm wondering. We're introduced to the character of Cruz, who is the personal trainer for all of the cars, but I don't really see. And obviously, we see throughout the film that she always had aspirations to be a racer.
Yeah,
But why was she ever employed as a personal trainer for race cars if she wasn't a racer herself?
yeah. That's a really good. That's a really interesting point, actually. I suppose they would rather like. I suppose you probably should rather like want to employ someone who's got experience. Like Smokey or something.
Yeah, it's like getting a PT who can't lift weights. Like it
That's a
just
great
seems
point,
like
actually. That's a really
it's
good point. Yeah.
like I know you can have the knowledge without without having the physical side of it, but I just feel like if you were the most elite race car trainer in all of the world, as Sterling claims she is, and he she's training Lightning McQueen, the most famous car racer in history, as is presented.
Mhm.
Yeah, you would think it would be like a former athlete or something.
That's a really good point, man. Really, because like even like from my experience of like watching football and stuff, it's always the managers who were ex-professional footballers who actually are the better managers. It tends to be
Yeah,
so. Like it's like the top football clubs would never really employ a manager who was not a professional footballer. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Yeah, because you know the game inside and out,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
and for her to coach Lightning effectively, I think she probably needs to know more
yeah,
about the
absolutely.
industry.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's a really good point.
So we see that Cruz and Lightning are accidentally entered into a demolition derby,
Yeah.
and what I found most baffling was at the end, they clearly stipulate the rules that it's the last car standing, but Lightning is also left standing when Cruz is declared the winner, and I'm just so confused as to why she was decided as to why she was considered the overall winner.
I suppose the film rectifies that by having Cruz and Lightning both be rewarded with the final race victory. But that yeah, I do agree with you. It is unusual as to why she was just awarded that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's just because she also sustained no damage, but I mean they both seem to come out pretty unscathed.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, man. It's a really good point.
If I'm being brutally honest, in the first film, obviously I did not latch on to any characters. I didn't really appreciate any of the plot, any of the characters, and I
Yeah,
didn't really care about Doc Hudson until this film. And I think that this film acts as an incredible tribute for the unfortunately deceased actor Paul Newman,
absolutely.
because they sort of they show us what happened with the characters that we didn't see, and he was clearly an integral part of Lightning's life. And I guess just Cars 2 didn't do an effective enough job of showing the impact that he had on Lightning's life. I mean, he sort of seemed uninterested in Lightning and sort of sick of him in the first film, and sort of unwilling to help him until the very final race. So I didn't actually think that he would be so impactful, and it was really nice to see.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more, man. I think you've nailed it there. I think it was a really like it was really touching. I think how they present Doc Hudson in the film, and I think they used archive voice footage of him in
Yeah,
this
I believe
film
so.
of Paul Newman. So that was really sweet to see because, like you said, he has a really like momentous impact on Lightning's life and stuff. And I thought it was a nice tribute that he sort of adopts his sort of color palette in the later bit of the film.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, Moving back to the character of Cruz, and her sort of helping Lightning train for the final race.
Sure.
There's a moment where he has his final opportunity to train for the race, and she's acting as the Jack fuck my life as the Jackson Storm
Yeah.
stand-in. Uh, and she does beat Lightning by a narrow margin, even though she was way ahead of him. So I don't think she can celebrate that much. I know that's how Jackson Storm and him will be placed, but she's sort of like blowing her own trumpet, to say it politely. Uh,
Yeah.
but I get that she beat him, but I really think the celebration dance was unnecessary. Like she came across as a bit of a dickhead.
Like it seemed, and it sort of seemed like in the film, it's sort of it's revealed that Lightning has missed qualifying, so he is pulling last in the race. But I was like, you're probably better like qualifying and getting like at least in the top 15 or something. That would be better than training, I think.
Was it that he missed qualifying? I just thought that you start in the position that you finished in the last race, and because he wiped out in the last race he was in, he was just automatically in last place.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird because there is a line saying he missed qualifying, but maybe that was because he couldn't race because he was out injured the whole time. But like I don't know, but because it does seem like he can catch up to it, like the quicker cars. Okay, so like you said with Cruz, she had like a decent lead on him, but he gains ground pretty quickly. Like he should have been maybe okay in the last race.
Yeah, I would have thought so. So I really enjoyed seeing Lightning as a coach, but
Yeah,
I still wanted to see him have, a final victory in this film that was just his. So I didn't really enjoy the tag team part of that race because I wanted
me too.
I wanted Lightning to have, one final win before he, sort of packed it in and decided to retire and become a coach.
Absolutely.
So I mean, distressingly, something that I never thought I would say is that I would have preferred to see this in a fourth Cars film, and
Yeah.
a fourth Cars film is shockingly something that I do somewhat want to see
Hey
now.
man, yeah, yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. I think it was really empowering for Lightning to let Cruz assume his position. Like I thought that was great, but I wouldn't, would have preferred for Lightning to have beat Storm rather than Cruz.
Yeah, like I would have liked her introduced as the new generation,
Yeah.
to compete with the rookies. But I still would have liked Lightning to have one final victory and then that be pursued in Cars 4.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more, pal. And I think Cruz has a lot of potential for a protagonist in Cars 4. But I think in this film, I would have preferred like Lightning to have that final victory as well because it sort of for me it sort of presented the wrong message of, oh, it's just give up and stuff rather than sort of try and achieve your goals. So I don't know. I would have preferred a Lightning victory, like you said.
Yes. So that's all I have on the film. Did you have any final points?
Nothing for me, pal. Nothing for me. What rating would you give it out of 10, buddy?
Well, I would say that this is by far my favorite film in the Cars franchise. I think the first one is objectively bad in my opinion, and then the second one I think is fun but flawed, and
Sure.
then this third one I think is just a genuinely well-made film. That they don't have some sort of zany, ridiculous villain.
Yeah.
Uh, normally I am a fan of underdog films, but I'm not normally a fan of sports films. So it
Mhm.
was sort of surprising to see how much I enjoyed this film. Uh, yeah, I like all the new additions to the cast and the the respect that they pay to Paul Newman and
Sure.
previous characters that aren't seen in this film. I think it's probably one of the biggest franchise glow ups I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
one of the best progressions in quality. So I probably have to give it an 8 out of 10.
Mate, I think you've completely nailed it on the head there. I agree with everything you've said, brother. And I'd give it the same. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's on par with the first Cars film for me. I think it could have been.
Don't you dare.
No, I no, but I like the first Cars film, to be fair, and I think I think the ending lets it down. If the ending was slightly better, I think this could have been like a 9 for me. It was that good. I'm a huge fan of this, and I would actually like to see a Cars 4 similar to you.
Yeah, I don't think it's too fuck my life. I don't think it's too late either. You know,
Yeah,
this only
no,
came out 3 years ago.
yeah, man, I know, and no, I had a great time talking about these films with you today, man. I think we had a variation of opinions, but for the most part, I think like we didn't dislike any of these films particularly.
Yeah. You know, the only one I had a
Yeah,
the only one I had a good time with was Cars 3,
yeah.
which baffled me.
I'm
But
glad to
yeah,
hear that, man.
Finding Dory was okay, and The Good Dinosaur was a bit of a slog.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear you liked Cars 3 because I wasn't sure on your opinions in the Cars franchise, whether it was going to be good or bad, but it seemed like you progressively liked each one more and more.
Yeah, I think I gave Cars 2 maybe like 7.5 because I recognized the issues it had. Or
Mm.
did I give it an 8? I don't know,
What was
something
I
like
think it was
that.
one of the two. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man. I think now I suppose it's time to let the viewers know what films we're going to be talking about for the next Pixar episode.
For the next Pixar episode, yes, we will be talking about uh, give me a sec, Coco, The Incredibles 2, and Onward.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So I'm really looking forward to that one as well. Have you seen any of those ones before?
I've seen The Incredibles 2 and I've seen Onward. I don't really like either of them, but from what I've seen and heard about Coco, I think I'll love it.
Yeah, man, it's from what I've seen of it, it's really good. So I can't wait to talk about that one. And then the next episode after this, it's Back to the Future films, right?
Yes, if you're cool with that,
Sounds
I'd
good,
love to
mate.
discuss
Sounds
Back to
good.
the Future.
No worries. So, do you want me to wrap up the episode then, man? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
No worries. Well, thanks very much for recording with me today, mate. I thought you had some amazing points, and it was great to discuss them with you. And yeah, thank you to everyone who has subscribed, liked, commented, shared, all that good stuff. Please be sure to like this video and comment your thoughts on these films down below. Email us with any questions or podcast suggestions at moviematespodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, thank you very much, Callum. See you soon and take care and bye bye.
Bye bye.